As I begin to picture Fluffy in this dark room in front of me, suddenly, without my input, begins to grow and grow until he is the size of a giant black panther. And I went up and I hugged him. I could feel his fur on my skin. He smelled exactly like he did in this world. He looked exactly like he did in this world, except that he had a panther face. And he was much, much larger. I've tried a lot of energy healing modalities over the years, and as an energy sensitive, I can easily tell if something is legitimate. Hands down, one of my best experiences has been with Jamie of Refractive Healing. Refractive Healing is a unique technique that channels rainbow light energy through your energy body. And let me tell you, I could feel its calming and supportive light flowing downward through my crown. I even received a physical healing during my session. I cannot recommend Jamie's work highly enough. Book your $22 Refractive Boost Distant Healing Session with Jamie today at refractivehealing.com. Check the description or the pinned comment for the link. Thank you to Refractive Healing for partnering with me in this video. Today, I'm going to share with you about something that I didn't know if I would ever want to share. I'm going to share with you about the deep soulmate connection that I had with my emotional support cat, Fluffy, how he recently passed, and the profound, sacred, ongoing communications that I have had with him. Before I get into it, I want to remind you that today, my community group, which I've decided to title Love Covered Life Academy, is officially launching. And we'll get things rolling with the first free masterclass that I'm offering for the month of May, which is Connecting to Your True Self. Each month, I'm going to be offering a new masterclass free to my members. And I'm also going to be offering a 50% discount on my 8-week intensive course, Alchemy. There will also be a community group where you can interact with each other, and I'll be going live once a month to get to know you, answer your questions, and connect with you on a deeper level. All right, to today's topic. I'm going to start by giving you a little bit of background about my relationship with Fluffy, how he came into my life, the role that he played, and some important details that will make sense when you hear about the interactions that I had with him after his passing. So Fluffy was a short-haired black cat. He came into my life at 8 weeks of age when I was going through an incredibly difficult time in my life. I was dealing with anxiety, a panic disorder, and honestly, agoraphobia. I had so much fear and anxiety in my life that I was afraid to leave my house. I was afraid to be alone. I was afraid of pretty much everything. I've told this story in detail before, but this is what happened when I was dealing with a severe undiagnosed sleeping disorder, and I was also going through my deconstruction. It was a really challenging and dark time for me. Fluffy came into my life during that time. He was one of the main things that pulled me out of that. He very quickly became an emotional support for me, and I bonded with him in a way that I have never bonded with any other animal. I've always been an animal lover, and I've always had pets that I've loved dearly, but this was on another level. This felt to me more like a soul contract. It felt to me more like he was my guardian angel in cat form. But Fluffy from the beginning was very tuned into me. I mean, he was my baby. He chose me as his person, and he would follow me around and hold on to my pants and try to climb up my leg when he was just a little kitten. He was really advanced for an animal. He didn't have a lot of the stereotypical antisocial cat behaviors. He was very calm, grounded, present, aware of what was going on, and I felt like he was evolving out of like second density animal consciousness and into more of a human self-awareness, to where he and I were really able to have a profound profound cross-species connection. And I remember thinking how incredibly grateful I was to be able to have this experience. I went into another really difficult phase of my life, which I can't share about publicly because it's very personal. But during that time, and this is over the last year that I've been going through this, he was my main emotional support. He would know when I was having a bad day, and he would come and curl up under my face when I went to bed and purr. And his purring was the only thing that could just stop my anxiety right in its tracks. Details that will be important later on. His favorite toy were these little soft hair ties, and I bought a pack of 100 of them because they were easy on my hair. Very quickly, he claimed the hair ties, and they all, of course, completely disappeared because him and my other cat played with them and hid them all over the house, and so I would literally never have a hair tie when I needed it. And I would have to go take a hot dog roasting stick and poke around under the fridge or under the TV stand or the washer to try to pull them out. So that will become important later on. Another thing is that after my kids went to bed at night, he would come up, jump up on the table, and he would reach up his little paw and tap me on the back. And I would turn around thinking it's one of my kids and it would be him. And he would put his little paws up on my chest, just wanting some attention. This is a special thing that he would do that will be important later on. Another thing is that he would always answer to his name unless he's in the middle of an afternoon nap. If we called him, he would get up and come. Another important detail is that he would meow all the time to go outside. And he had a really signature meow. You know how every cat has their own meow. His sounded a certain way. And it was his "I want to go outside" meow. My other cat did not answer to her name, and she very rarely meowed to go outside. And the final detail that I'm going to share with you is that there were special songs that made me think of him. So you know how sometimes girls will post images on social media like, "I'm going on this date," and then it will flash to an image of their son or their dog. Just as a funny kind of, this is the man in my life. So I had that type of relationship with him as well. I remember there was one night when my daughter had auditioned for a play and wanted to learn singing. And so we were watching a YouTube video that was teaching vocal control. And the song that they were using in that video to teach different techniques was "Can't Help Falling in Love" by Elvis Presley. And after my daughter went to bed that night, I was still sitting on the couch and the song was playing, and Fluffy came and curled up on my chest, and I was like bonding with him over that song. So that was a really special song that made me think of him. And then another one was "Perfect" by Ed Sheeran, and the chorus goes, "I'm dancing in the dark with you between my arms," and it's written from like a guy to a girl. But there was one night when that was playing on my TV, and I was cradling Fluffy in my arms like a little baby, and he really was, in a sense, like a fourth child to me. He would let me cradle him in my arms like a baby and walk around the house like that. People don't believe me when I say that, but he would, and he would just look up at me. And so I was cradling him like a little baby, just dancing around the living room with him when this song, "Perfect" by Ed Sheeran, was playing. And so that was another song that was special for me, not in a weird way, of course. It's just like how we love our little pets. And so there were a total of 4 songs that really made me think of him like that, just cute, "I really love you, my little fluff baby" type of way. So what ended up happening is that one night he got sick. We had to rush him to emergency care. The closest emergency vet is an hour away from us. And so we made that trip with him being very upset, scared, and in pain, not understanding what was going on. And he cried the whole way there. And that was challenging enough. We thought that we were putting him through it to get him some help. But when we got there, we found out that there was nothing that could be done. And we ended up having to let him go. And it was one of the most difficult nights of my life, because not only did I very suddenly have to lose my emotional support animal, who was so much more to me than just a pet.
He had been my guardian angel. He had given me a sense of safety and security and belonging during some really difficult times in my life. He had been my primary emotional support that I was leaning on to get through some challenging things. Not only did I very suddenly have to lose him, I had to be the one to make some really difficult decisions. And I had to do it with my daughter there because she had come with me, and I had to watch her go through the pain of losing him as well. And then I had to get us all home. And I knew at the time that everything was unfolding that it had to be unfolding that way for a reason. Because every time that life has put me in a situation where something happens and it's outside of my control, it's usually because it is meant to happen that way. And there was nothing that I could do, that I could have done to change what happened. And I understood that when it happened. I remember thinking, I really hope that I am able to have some communications with him. I interview near-death experiencers and other spiritual experiencers, and I've had people in my life that I've known or been acquainted with pass and attempted to reach out to them and never really received any communication. But my hopes were really high that because Fluffy and I were so close, and because I was already pretty convinced that he was my guardian angel in cat form, that he had come to me during a difficult time in my life because that's how he could best help me, my hopes were pretty high that I could connect with him. So the signs that he was still present with me started immediately the next day after I arrived home. And I'm just going to go through these things for you now and share them one by one. The first sign I noticed that he was still around is that those hair ties I told you about were turning up everywhere. Previously, I could never find them. I would have to go digging for them when I needed to do my hair. And when I got home the next day, they were everywhere. They were turning up everywhere around the house. And I talked to an animal communicator after this. The video hasn't posted on YouTube, but you'll hear him confirm this. That is definitely a sign that your pet is still around and is trying to send you a message, because one common thing that will happen is that their favorite toys will turn up in places that they wouldn't normally be. So that was the first thing that I noticed. The second really odd thing that I noticed that I didn't quite know what to make of is that my other cat started taking on some of his behaviors. And this happened immediately within the first 2 days after Fluffy's passing. So Storm, or Floofy as we call her, started answering to her name. And now she comes when we call her. She never came when we called her before. Fluffy passed, and she instantly and miraculously started coming when we call her. And she still does to this day. She started meowing to go outside, and she will use Fluffy's signature meow. She doesn't even use her own meow. She sounds like Fluffy, and she will stand at the door and meow to go outside. And this started happening within a couple days of him passing. Another thing, now she only did this 2 or 3 times, but she came up behind me and tapped me on my back with her paw. And this happened within the first few days of his passing, and then it hasn't happened since then. But she never did that. She never really showed a whole lot of personal interest in me like he did, where he would come up and try to get my attention and be really tuned in with me. She wasn't like that with me. She's more of my daughter's cat and is more tuned in with her. But she came up and tapped me on the back 2 or 3 times after he left, and I was like, what is going on here? I talked with an animal communicator later, like I said, and that video will post, so you'll be able to hear him say this. But he said that this is also a really common way that our loved pets try to communicate with us after they pass, is that they will instruct the remaining pets to do certain things just to let you know that they're still around. The third thing that I noticed is that my 4 songs that were special to me and Fluffy would play on the radio whenever I went out. For a while, this was happening for the first probably month after he passed. Every time I would get in this car, one of those songs would play. And there was one time, that was pretty soon after his passing, where all 4 of those songs played in the span of one car ride. And to me, it was just him saying, I'm here and I still love you. I remember one specific time when I was dropping my daughter off at play rehearsals when a different version of Dancing in the Dark, a different version than the one that usually played, because it was a shorter version that usually played on my playlist, but a different, longer, really magnificent instrumental version of it played. And when this happened, it was like I was transported in time. I was so deeply into the present moment. And it was like this song was infused with his energy and his love. And it was undeniable that it was a message from him. Okay, so now I'm going to get into the really profound experiences I've had with him. And there have been several. The first and most powerful experience I had with him was several nights after his passing. I decided that I was going to do a meditation by Danielle McKinnon. Danielle McKinnon is a well-known animal communicator, and I'll share the link to the meditation that I used in the description, but it's specifically designed to help humans connect with pets that have passed. I went into it not really sure if anything was going to happen, but remaining open and hoping for the best. Now, she starts that meditation by asking you to walk through the woods, open up a door, climb up some steps, and open another door. And she gets you deep into hypnosis at this point. And then by the time you open up that second door, she tells you to picture your beloved pet. And so I'm deep into this meditation, and I'm trying to picture little Fluffy, the little cat. And as I begin to picture Fluffy in this dark room in front of me, he suddenly, without my input, begins to grow and grow until he is the size of a giant black panther. So for those of you who have watched the Chronicles of Narnia movies, he was about as tall as Aslan was to Lucy in those movies. And I went up and I hugged him. It was a very visceral experience. I reached my arms up around his neck. I could barely reach to scratch behind his ears. I could feel his fur on my skin. I could smell his fur. He smelled exactly like he did in this world. He looked exactly like he did in this world, except that he had a panther face. And he was much, much larger. There were a few things that I picked up on, like communications that I received, like being to being communications that I received instantaneously. The first one is that I could feel his presence, and I could feel that it was so much more vast than what it had been in his physical life as a cat. I was shown that he is indeed one of my guardian angels, that we had been together prior to this lifetime, and that we've had a lot of experiences together. The second thing is that I picked up on his personality, and I could see that he was calm, aware, present, intelligent, just like he had been in this life, and that there was also a playful side to his personality that really was able to come out in his lifetime as a cat. And as we were standing there and I was just hugging him and trying to reach up and scratch his ears, he was shaking his head just like he did in this life as a cat, just shaking it playfully, just being present with me, but also just wanting to be playful. Okay, we're here having this experience, but let's play and let's have fun. That's the energy that was coming from him. And then the third thing that I picked up on is I was able to see myself through his eyes. And I experienced his love for me, and in that a love for myself that I have never experienced in this lifetime. I will say that it is not to the level of the love of source that I experienced in my out-of-body experiences. However, it was several steps beyond anything that I have ever felt for myself. And through his eyes, I experienced myself as innocent, perfect, completely lovable. I didn't see any of my mistakes as problems. At that point in the meditation, Danielle guided us to look to our right and see if there's anything that our pet wanted to show us. When I looked to the right, I saw a mirror, and it was a short mirror, but very long. And when I turned and looked in the reflection, I saw myself, and I saw that the big Black Panther was superimposed into my space and coming out almost like a shield protecting me on both sides. And the clear communication that I received was, we're tackling the rest of your life together. I am with you every step of the way. I also got a sense that things were about to change and that new levels were about to be unlocked for me, although I wasn't shown any details of what that would be. I had the sense that he was with me as a cat for the time that I needed him as a cat, and he had left so that he could help me more from the other side, that I was going to need a more powerful guidance than he was able to give me as a cat. When Danielle had been suggesting that we look to the side, one of the things that she mentioned that we might see was a beach. And so after we were done with the mirror experience, I pictured a beach, and I could tell the difference between the things that I pictured and the things that just happened. Like the mirror was just there. I didn't create it. When we were done with that experience, I pictured a beach, and I thought, okay, it would be fun to go walk on the beach. But suddenly he began running down the beach and somehow pulled me up on his back. And his playful nature was really coming out, and he just wanted to go explore the beach with me. But after a few seconds, the meditation continued, and Danielle called us back into the room. And she said to now listen and see if there's any message that your pet has to share with you. And remember, I was just standing there, and he was actually licking my face like a cat or dog, but he's this big Black Panther. And again, it was his like playful, in the moment personality coming out. He just wanted to spend time with me and play with me, and he was licking my face. And then when the question was asked, do you have any message to share with me, he very matter-of-factly said, you were stupid to think that I wouldn't love you. Now, something that I haven't shared is that during the grieving process, I was really wondering, is he really still out there? Do I really mean anything to him? Even though I interview near-death experiencers, when you're the one going through it, when it's my turn to be the one going through loss, these are still very real questions. And so I was struggling with, he was such a perfect little angel baby, and I'm this imperfect human who's made all of these mistakes. It's impossible that he could have loved me in the same way I loved him. And is he even still out there? Does he even care about us anymore? Or is he just off in cat heaven, not paying any attention to us? Was he upset or shocked by what had happened? Do I mean anything to him anymore? And all of that was answered in that very matter-of-fact statement when he said, as he was licking my face, very matter-of-factly, you were stupid to think I wouldn't love you. Just said with the honesty of a child, right? And this entire experience really helped me through my grieving process and gave me a lot of comfort. So that was basically the end of the experience. I had to leave him and go back down the steps and then come back to the conscious world here. And I didn't want to at all, but I was incredibly grateful to have had the experience. After I had that experience, I had ongoing communications with him because something about the experience tuned me into his energetic signature, and I started picking up on his presence with me at other times in my life. So the first time this happened, I was sitting in the car at the park, and I just had a lot going on in my mind. I got out of my car to take a walk, and I clearly felt his presence drop into the top left side. And the words dropped into my head, stop overanalyzing your thoughts. I just want to spend some time with you. And it was very clear to me that it was him. I knew it was him. There's no doubt in my mind that it was him. It was still that very playful energy, the same energy that I had felt in my experience. And I also, for a moment, had that expanded consciousness where I saw myself through his eyes, and I felt that same love that he felt for me in that experience that I tuned into. So I knew it was him. And those words just dropped into my head out of nowhere. And I've never received spiritual communication like that. Usually when I get spiritual downloads, I have to translate it into words. It comes to me in concepts. I have to translate it into words. But every time I've received communication from him, it has come in the form of preformed words that just drop into my head. The second time this happened was at the end of a long night when I was really missing him. And the words dropped into my head, open yourself up to the possibility of other things in your life that could bring you that same kind of joy. And then you'll be able to see that the joy is actually being created inside you. And then 2 times I heard very clearly, what else in your life could bring you this kind of joy? And once again, I knew that it was him communicating to me, trying to help me understand that he had allowed me to access a deeper joy and comfort that was actually already within myself. And that just because he was gone did not mean that joy and that comfort was gone, because that was innately within me. And the third and final time so far that I've received a direct communication from him was one night when I was feeling annoyed with my dog, and I was feeling really guilty for feeling annoyed with my dog. And suddenly the words dropped into my head. Do you really think you're the only one that's ever gotten annoyed with a dog? And suddenly I saw flashes of all the times that he would hiss and swat at the dogs. And it was just this funny little reminder not to be so hard on myself. And it was so clear that it was him. Like, it was absolutely his presence that was tuning in. And there's just this really cat-like quality and matter-of-factness to it again, right? Along with that non-judgmental love. I've had 2 more really profound experiences with him that are shorter in nature that I'll share now. The first one, and this happened probably about 5 or 6 weeks after he passed, I had a dream about him. And I awoke from that dream, and I couldn't remember the details of what had happened in the dream, but I very quickly realized that I didn't need to, because he was laying on my chest. He was right here, stretched out, with his front paws stretching out over my shoulder, and his little face laying down right here. And he wasn't there physically, but it was like his energetic imprint was there so strongly that I could feel his essence. It was like I could smell him. I could feel the pressure of him being there. I could sense everything that he was as a cat, like the animal nature, the smell, the fur, just everything that made up his presence as a cat. It was like right there, but it wasn't physical, but it was so real. And I felt that as I was waking up, and I knew that he had actually appeared to me in the dream and that he was actually there with me. And then the final experience that I've had with him so far happened just 2 nights ago. I was walking from my living room into my hallway, and I passed my couch, and I saw in the corner of my eye a black cat with vivid green eyes sitting there. The eyes were unmistakable. I saw 2 little bright, vivid green eyes. And Fluffy had green eyes, but my other cat, Floofy, has gold eyes. And so as I'm walking past, I'm thinking to myself, I must have seen Floofy sitting there and just mistaken the eye color. And this is happening in a split second. So I turn and look back, expecting to see that Floofy was there, and there was no cat there. But I saw a cat, and I saw the green eyes, and I knew in that moment that he was giving me yet another reminder that he's still there with me. So I share all of this in the hopes that it will bring comfort to others who may be missing or grieving their pets or even their human loved ones who have passed. They are very much still here, still present with us, and wanting to communicate with us in any way that they can how much they love us. One final thing that I will mention is that since my cat has passed, things have shifted for me. Channeling from the spiritual realm into creative projects that I'm working on has opened up like a floodgate. And I've also been more sensitive and highly tuned in to the subtler realms of the spirit, able to receive personal guidance and communication much more easily. So I just want to encourage you with that there's a reason why our loved ones are in our lives, and there's also a reason why they choose to go at the times that they do. And it could be to benefit us on our journeys, to help us in a deeper way.